Hi everyone, today I thought I'd talk to you about frost cloth. So the first one we'll talk about is one that we sell and it's just called frost cloth, and it looks like this. I'll show you a close-up picture in a sec. This one's really good, it's the cheapest on the market that we sell. The only problem with this one is it doesn't let in sunlight and it also doesn't let in the air. So what happens is once it starts to dry after a frost, it all puddles on the top of it. So really for this one to work properly, you need to take it off each day and then reapply it again at night or the next time you're having a frost. So it can't be left on the plants, it needs to be changed each day. And when I say it needs to be taken off, I mean it needs to be taken off and it needs to be hung out to dry. So on a clothesline, over a fence, somewhere where it's going to be able to dry. This applies for all frost cloths because if it's still wet, then what's going to happen when that freezes is it's going to stick to the leaves, especially if there's no gap between the plant and the frost cloth. The other one we sell is microclimber, which is this one here. You can see it's got a bit more of a mesh to it. This is the main one that we use in the garden centres because it's the hardiest, it lasts the longest. So the other frost cloths last us probably 2 seasons in the garden centres. Obviously we're covering all the time, we're covering a lot of plants, but this one here is going to last us 10 or more. It starts to get a bit dirty and ratty. You can even put it in your washing machine at home to keep it looking nice and white and pristine, but it lets in the light and it also lets in the air. So what happens is once that frost is on the surface of the frost cloth, it actually, as it starts to melt off, it will just go through the frost cloth, gives your plant a little bit of water, and a lot of people also use it for insulation in glass houses and such because that's the job that it does. So this one here is a really good one if you can afford the extra couple of dollars because it's going to last you a lot longer. It can stay on the plant all the time. You'd probably want to take it off after a couple of months though, just to get some natural air and light into that plant. And the only other thing obviously to be careful of with any frost cloth is if you've got bugs and pests on your plant, applying it on and off can spread it to other plants if it's not staying on that one plant. So just be careful of that as well. So this is called microclimber, really good product. The other thing that's really important to know is depending on how hard the frost is to how many layers of frost cloth that we do. So if it's a 3 degrees to 0 degree frost, we usually do a single layer. 0 to -3, we're doing a double layer, and anything below -3, triple to sometimes 4 layers. Some plants obviously more frost tender than others, and so if you know you've got like grevilleas or something that are really frost tender, we often will double that again. So to correctly apply frost cloth, what you need to do is it actually needs to lollipop around the foliage, or you need to build a frame. That's going to make life a lot easier. Certainly if you're just doing like a single citrus tree in a pot, then all you need to do is get your frost cloth and you just lay it over the top and you would lollipop it around, and then you wrap an end sort of around together and then just peg it into place, or you can tie it into place if it's going to be there for a long time. So building the support, obviously you want it up a little bit off the foliage where possible. It doesn't really matter if it touches the foliage, that's what we're doing at the garden centre all the time and it's perfectly fine. But if you can and your plants are extra sensitive, then building a frame and having it a little gap between the foliage and the frost cloth can certainly help. Now your frost cloth shouldn't be taken off in the morning until it starts to melt off the frost cloth, otherwise you're going to be doing it too early and the frost is still going to attack your plants because it's still out and about. So definitely don't take off your frost cloth too early. Sometimes in winter for us that's not till after 10 o'clock, so just be cautious of your timings and definitely don't take it off too early. So the reason frost cloth works is because it traps heat, but there's other things that also work that you could use in a pinch if you didn't have any frost cloth on hand. You can use cardboard boxes, obviously placed over top of the plants and then secured in place with some rocks. You can also use sheets, but because they can get quite heavy, especially by the time they get that frost and that water on it, they can easily snap and damage plants. So if you're going to use sheets, please make sure you build some form of support to keep it up off the foliage as much as possible. You can also use newspaper built into like paper hats. It sounds a bit funny putting paper hats on top of your plants, but certainly for younger sort of annuals or perennials that are quite small, making a paper support around it would work as well. But obviously that paper is going to turn into mush by the time the frost is finished, so you're going to need to get rid of it and then make new paper supports each day. The other thing you may have heard of is a spray called Vapor Guard. Vapor Guard works as a protection that you spray over top of your plants, and it can help them get down to 3 degrees lower than what they would normally take. So for example, if your plant usually only took a 0 degree frost, it would help it down to -3. So it helps just sort of boost their immunity to frost. The only thing to be careful about with products that you're spraying over for foliage protection and as a frost protection is that any new growth that you get is growing out of that protection, so that you need to reapply it. So any new growth that you're getting is going to get frosted, especially as we get later in the season and the frosts get harder. Another thing you should think about when it's frost time is also mulching the garden. It seems silly because mulching generally is thought about to help conserve moisture, but it actually helps conserve heat. So what it does is it protects the roots and keeps the roots nice and warm and tucked away for the winter. Think about it, us tucking ourselves under extra blankets in the winter. This does the same for the roots of the plants, which helps them send out more fibrous roots, keeps the roots nice and warm, and so when they come into spring they've got all the energy they need to start growing again quickly. So I hope this has helped. Obviously types of frost cloth that you can get, if you can choose between frost cloth and microclimber, personally I would choose the microclimber over frost cloth any day, but if you're in a pinch and you don't have anything else in the house and you get caught by sneaky frost, which always seems to happen, then cardboard boxes, making paper hats or paper supports would work as well, and making supports for sheets is another way to go as well. So hopefully that's given you some helpful hints, and if you have any questions, let us know. Thanks guys.